These individuals shared a common trait in that they were aware of it. They were capable of doing it. They were aware that they were capable of more than what they were. They were willing to put their time and effort into themselves. What could you do if you had additional skills? Welcome to Prepared Leaders. I want to share a few little tales with you, and perhaps we can learn a few things from them. I like to share with you the stories of two ladies who each sold their company to Berkshire Hathaway. By coincidence, they both started out with the same amount of money, $25,000, for millions of dollars. Everything in the world was there for them. One of them arrived in Seattle in 1917, and she was a woman. Without knowing a single word of English, she was wearing a tag around her neck that read, Fort Dodge, Iowa. She was transported by the Red Cross to Fort Dodge, Iowa, where she met her husband, who had arrived in the country a few years before. She stayed in Fort Dodge for 2 years as she described it. She experienced self-doubt. She struggled to understand the lingo. She was unable to learn a single phrase. So she and her husband made a decision to go to Omaha. So in 1919, they traveled to Omaha. She then started to feel more at home after discovering a small colony of Russian Jews there. After that, her eldest daughter started school. Eventually, Frances would return home, and she would teach her mother the terms she had learned in class that day. Rose Bumpkin spent 20 years saving money before inviting her parents and siblings over, paying them $50 at a time. To pay for it, she sold second-hand garments. Throughout this time, she gave birth to 4 children. And after 20 years, she had saved $2,500 by 1937. She traveled to Chicago and purchased what furniture she could afford. Her goal had always been to open a furniture store, but she didn't have a formal education and spent $2,500 trying to make it happen. Just like the people in this room. She created a company that she later sold to me for roughly $60 million, and that generated a revenue of $1.15 billion in the previous fiscal year. That company employs its 4th generation. This woman, Rose Blumkin, worked for me until she was 103. She retired, although I'm not saying that, and the next year she passed away. Which is a lesson. All of Berkshire's managers should consider taking early retirement because they are clueless and unable to predict what will happen. However, Mrs. B has $2,500. She was also illiterate, unable to read or write. She entered the furniture industry and didn't bring any special furniture with her. But she did have the drive to succeed. She was confident that she could outwork everyone. She was aware of her concern for her clients. Despite working at extremely low gross margins, she managed to create this fantastic company. I observed only one other woman doing the same thing with $2,500. I gave her a business worth hundreds of millions of dollars, so I decided to get them directly from the source. You understand why I don't want you to approach me and demand hundreds of millions of dollars. I wish I could have joined you earlier. So I kept up with this company, and now I'll tell you about another independent contractor. I tried to buy his company from him, but he declined, which I thought was quite clever. However, this person was born roughly 8 years before I did. His birth year was 1922. Jack will be his name. Inhabited the Midwest. He wasn't a big fan of school and was a really excellent athlete. And I'll tell you one item at the beginning of the story in the hopes that you can identify the man. More college graduates are hired by the business he founded each year than by any other business in the country. Jack went to college for a year before he dropped out because he didn't know he wanted to. When the nation was under attack, he went to the army. He went to an Air Force recruitment station and volunteered, but they turned him down because he had a high fever. He actually wasn't that interested in school, and he dropped out in 1941. And before we continue, I'll be giving you time to subscribe to the channel, Hit the like button and turn on the notification bell to be notified every time a new video is uploaded. And let's continue. And at the age of 35, after rising through the ranks of the company, he asked his supervisor. I mean, any of us could have started those businesses, but he lived by the philosophy of pleasing his clients and working with people to build relationships so that clients would want to like him and could join him in the car leasing industry. We may become partners in a car leasing company if you cut your income in half and come up with the $25,000 that he borrowed, the boss stated. So my friend Jack began his career in the car leasing industry at the age of 35 with 7 vehicles. The business was slow. His initial business effort was a success, but it wasn't really going anywhere, and everyone can learn from this. He made his decision at the age of 40 and had 17 cars. He intended to enter the rental car industry as a competitor. He is now competing against companies like Hertz, Avis, National, and others that own tens of thousands of vehicles. He gets them from General Motors or Florida Chrysler. He can't get them at the airport sites because those companies have sold out. But he was determined to give the customer a different car and the best service they've ever had. Thus, he founded a business and gave it the name USS Enterprise after the battleship from which he had flown over the Pacific. About a year and a half ago, he passed away. The man's son, Andy Taylor, is a good friend of mine and runs the company now that a granddaughter works there. It will most likely be a fourth-generation graduate. I mean, any of us could have started those businesses, but he lived by the philosophy of pleasing his clients and working with people to build relationships so that clients would want to like him. Although he was unable to handle every rental vehicle scenario, he did learn how to portray his personality, his attitude towards other people, and his desire to become friends with every client. He was able to start his remarkable business from nothing by taking quite ordinary cars and turning them into a number of things. It's hard to make a customer happy if all you do is give them the car and tell them to send you a check every month for the next 5 years until you come back. His skills were essentially being wasted in that industry. But at the age of 40, with all of that experience behind him, he discovered the secret to turning a very ordinary business into an extraordinary operation, much like Mrs. B. Rose Blumkin did with furniture. He didn't worry about whether the Federal Reserve would tighten or ease, the performance of stock market yesterday, or the things he normally worries about. Even though I have seen a lot of businesses, I have never seen one that makes customer happy. You want the customer to remember your business the following day when they consider renting a car or making a furniture purchase, since they had a positive experience there. I'm not sure how much I paid for this type of item. In fact, it's possible that I receive it as a gift, but for the sake of the speech, I'll say that I have no idea. However, I do know that I will remember how I was treated when I made the purchase. After all, you quickly forgot the purchase price, but you never forget whether you had a good or bad experience. It's difficult to find someone who had a wonderful experience. The key is to surround yourself with people who are better than you are, because you will move in the direction of the people you associate with. In terms of your personal life, the most important decision you may make or will make is the spouse that most of you will likely have. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and turn on the notification bell so you'll know when I upload new content. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all in my next video.